When you stand praying, all you got to do is just believe, and you shall have whatsoever you pray. Just believe.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rosalind Farrell, and I will be your host for tonight's Just Breathe podcast. We have a powerful setup on tonight with some amazing men that have really contributed to my leadership and to my path and in manufacturing for over 26 years. So I am going to go ahead and bring my special guests into the Just Breathe podcast. Please share, like, comment, and welcome again to the Just Breathe podcast. So my first guest is Mr. Derek Harris. Welcome, Mr. Derek L. Harris, to the Just Breathe podcast.
Hey, thank you. How are you?
I am doing well, thank you.
Good.
Yes. I'm going to go ahead and introduce everyone to Mr. Derek L. Harris, who is a seasoned federal contracting professional with 19 years expertise in acquisitions and procurement, primarily supporting the Veterans Health Administration. One of Derek's key achievements is at ILEAD was an overhaul of the contract tracking system, CTS, an innovation that enabled real-time monitoring of contract actions and offered ILEAD leaders detailed metrics on contract timelines and budget allocations. Derek's journey began as a contract specialist managing a $5 million annual portfolio. Beyond his professional contributions, Derek is a former college athlete, having played basketball and football, and holds a dual bachelor's degree in television production and sociology with the emphasis in criminology. He also earned an MBA, complementing his professional expertise with strong analytical and leadership skills. He is passionate about mentorship and lifelong learning. Derek is committed to inspiring others and is an avid reader of business and personal development literature. So without further ado, welcome Derek L. Harris to the Just Breathe podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. And next we have Mr. Anthony. You can't hear me? Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me? Because I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Huh.
I can hear you.
Okay. Not quite sure what happened there.
Okay. So you can hear me now, okay? I can hear you though. Derek, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Can I try and call right back in?
Yes. Yep, you can. Yep. Let me see. All right. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Mr. Rick Stehlin, who is the operations manager at STERIS. And I'm going to let Rick introduce himself when we get started by telling us a little bit about himself and what he's been doing over these last few years. But Rick Stehlin was my plant manager in my experience in the brass industry. He gave me my first opportunity as an HR professional, and I will always be grateful for Rick and the opportunity that he provided for me as an HR professional. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Rick Stehlin. Can you hear me okay, Rick? Yep, hold on one second, because you're breaking up. Derek, am I still are you breaking up? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So Rick, can you hear me? Yeah, for some reason it's, hold on one second. Let me try something here. For some reason it's freezing up. Rick, can you now hear me? Derek, are you still here with me?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm still here. Yeah.
There. Let me try again here. Okay, we're trying this again, Rick. Can you hear me okay? No? Hold on one second. Okay, let's try this again. Rick, can you hear me now? Okay. Yep, I see that you're muted, but I'm hitting unmute and I don't know why it's doing that. Can you unmute from your side? This is really weird. We were just in the studio all talking and all this happened. Okay, now it looks like you're unmuted. Well, no, it's back muted. Okay. You're unmuted on my side. Yep, I can. It's like you're breaking up. I don't know what happened. Let me try this. Derek, you still here? You can hear me okay? Yes, isn't that weird? We were just all in the studio talking and then now all of a sudden it's.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what happened when you took us out and then brought us in
Brought us back
individually.
in, yeah.
But fortunately, mine didn't cut out, so I don't know.
Yes. I see. Let me see. Can you comment and let us know if you can hear us okay? The listeners, I see Linda Dumas, who is my mother, she's out there. If you can kind of put in if you can still hear us. Okay, so they said they can hear us, so I just added Rick back in. And it says that you're unmuted. There you go. Yeah, it's breaking up. Rick, if you can hear me, try logging out and logging back in. Yes. 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 Okay. Yeah, it looks like our listeners can hear us fine. I don't know what happened with Tony and Rick once we came out.
Yeah, maybe when they reconnect, maybe the all sync back up.
Yes, I'm hoping.
This is part of leadership, overcoming adversity.
There you go, Derek. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Because you know I'm over here like, oh, here we go.
I think if they call back in and reconnect,
Okay.
it may work.
Maybe you go to settings, select audio to listen if their voice is heard. If that's not, this is never ever done this before. Just nuts. Go to settings, audio. Yeah, it looks like everyone is unmuted. Okay, Rick, you with us? Unbelievable. Can you still not hear me? I can hear you. Can you go to your settings to see if your mic is muted or unmuted?
Okay.
Yep. Can you hear us now?
I can hear you.
Well, I can hear you now.
Oh, good.
We did it, yes. Okay, now we can get Tony back in. Let me see what he's saying here. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna see if Tony can log back in. Let's see what he says. So I apologize again for the technical difficulty. Like Derek said, this is about leadership. Handling things under pressure, we got this.
That's right.
Tony says he's on. I can see and hear you, but we don't see you. You're not in the studio, Tony, so. Okay, so Rick, we're gonna start with you and you're gonna introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go ahead and get started with the questions.
Sure. Well, my background is metallurgical engineering. got that from Missouri S&T, and I've been in manufacturing since day one coming out of college. Crazy to think it's been 35 years now. I never thought I'd say that number. But, I've enjoyed every minute of it. You have your different challenges, and, that's actually where you and I met, was probably about the midpoint of my career. And we had a monster challenge in front of us when we were at that plant. But, we had a good team. And, I hope I can tell a few stories about that tonight.
Yes, thank you, Rick.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And my first question will be to Derek. And when you hear the phrase, as we're talking tonight, about the impact of professional impact of men in the workplace, when you hear built to lead, what does leadership mean to you personally and professionally?
Built to lead. I think first off, just the phrase built to lead is interesting because the word built, to me, built implies something that's completed or finished. All right, so built is a past tense, something is done. From my perspective and experience, leadership is never finished. It's a lifelong process of growth and development. And from my personal perspective, leadership development never ends. And so I spent a lot of time continuing seeking advice, guidance, and perspective from trusted individuals who have already basically done what I'm looking to do in some instances. And so the key is being selective about whose counsel that you seek. And so growth requires me to be humble. It also requires humility, continuous learning, all types of self-reflection. When I think about building, which is a continuous thing, I'm thinking about building leadership and leadership qualities. You're always self-reflecting, and you're always looking at maybe some other things, and then also take some of those things and taking a look at that. Are you hearing an echo?
Yes. So if you have two devices on, one of them is going to have to close to that.
Yeah, I don't.
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you now. Hey, welcome back.
Thank you, yes.
All right, so
Now you're echoing.
now I'm echoing. Jeez.
Now you're good.
Okay.
Am I good?
You're
Yes.
good.
Okay. All right, so just to continue that thought, again, growth requires humility and continuous learning and self-reflection. And so just being aware of self allows you to, when you're building your leadership model, so to speak, allows you to kind of really look at what you think you need and some of the things that you think you don't need. And so just having that moment of self-reflection is a positive thing. From a professional perspective, I think when I hear the term or the phrase built to lead, leadership definitely requires integrity, consistency, and then really leadership is really about service to others, I think. And so a leader's responsibility includes developing future leaders. And so being connected to that whole sentiment of serving others, when you develop other people, help develop other people, that's part of that giving back, and that's part of that whole process of being a servant leader. And so from a professional perspective, I think that's very key. We know that even though we've probably worked in our respective careers for a length of time. None of us are going to last forever. And so building a pipeline and definitely take a look at succession planning is critical. So not only doing the things and meeting the challenges and looking at our own personal goals, but helping other people meet their goals and ultimately take our places. And so that's from a personal or professional perspective. Just kind of looking at the real world situation. Like right now, I'm mentoring a young man that's on my team. I've been mentoring him, I think, since 2017. And we meet every Friday afternoon. And so just taking the time and commitment to do that and just kind of talking through the day-to-day actions. He has the opportunity to ask me questions about stuff that I did, why I made certain decisions, why I made certain moves. And then he takes that and breaks it down and then also develops, I think, his own process and his own philosophies as he continues to kind of look at some of the things that I do. And so I think having that perspective and then having a platform to practice it. We do a lot of listening. We go to a lot of trainings. We do a lot as it relates to self-development. But in a lot of instances, I've seen people not have a platform to do it. So part of my leadership model is making sure that people have a platform to practice some of the things that we discussed. So that's part of the whole, again, built is past tense. I don't think I'm ever finished, but just building not only building myself, but building other people up as well is all part of that process. It's just a give and take.
Derek,
Yes,
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
And actually a question for the group, because we're all leaders. But I when I saw this question, I thought about myself, and I thought about you, Rosalind, because at points in our life, we've been willing to take the road less traveled, knowing it's not the most desired path, but it needed to get done. And we took that path and we learned something from that.
yes,
And it was part of our growth, because I know mine goes back, when you say built, I remember when I was in first or second grade playing baseball for the first year, and nobody wanted to catch because you had to wear all that 1950s era catcher's equipment, and it was hot and dirty. But I saw it as, God, I can be in every play of the game. So I did it and ended up catching until I was 20 years old and had just an enormous blast playing the game. And for Roz, you came in to a job and I threw you in the worst possible role. But I knew you could change that area just through your resilience. And you did it. It took time, but they began to believe in you.
yes,
And it changed the culture of that area. So I think we all in this room have stories like that we were willing to take that road less traveled. And that's what that question kind of sunk in with me.
yes. Yes, thank you for sharing that, Ricky. You're absolutely right. I mean, I remember when I did come in, I was transparent with you, and I'm like, and this came back from, even leadership being with Chrysler and Tony, and, you never let me, although I should beat myself down, but you was like, you better dry them tears up and get back out there and run that line. And that type of leadership, made me start believing in myself and the things that I was capable of doing, because I had leaders like everyone that's on this platform that believed in me as well and pushed me to be past beyond my potential, because oftentimes we can get complacent in our roles. And like I said, when I came in at Olin Brass, I was like, listen, I've been in production my entire career. I went to school to get a degree in HR, and I am trying to move into HR. And I stayed in that role for right at 10 months. And you like, Rosalind, you ready?
I was really surprised to see, I think when I heard that you were in HR, right? Because we're from the dark side, if you will. And I was kind of surprised to see that you took that route. I always knew that you were a people person, right? And it could do the job. But you could also do production as well. And so, yeah, I guess that is a road less traveled for you, that you took
Yes.
that risk and went that way, right? So,
Yes. Yes. All right. So my next question is for you, Tony, and I didn't get a chance to introduce you, but Tony is the former president of U.S. Cargo Systems. He just announced to me on this evening that he just recently retired. So congratulations to you, Tony.
Congratulations, Tony.
well,
Yes.
thank you, thank
Congrats.
you.
Yes.
Yeah, when we first talked about this, um, I had no idea. I've been feeling this way for quite some time, and it just kind of happened. Having that conversation is like I'm kind of going through the motions. My heart's not really in it like it should be, and I don't think it was fair to the company or fair to me to continue. Yeah, I could have, but that's just not a good thing. So, yes, I am recently retired from U.S. Cargo. Um, I was the president of U.S. Cargo, of course, with all the challenges associated with that. I'll say that one thing that I'm realizing, because I think June 1st was, or the end of May was my last day, and now I'm in a position now where I'm decompressing. I had no idea how much stress that I was walking around with. No idea. I had no idea how, let's say, non-present I was. With when I came home, I was still working. When was with family, I was still working, right? And so now that I'm trying to be present, I don't know how. I'm working on it, right? And I'm decompressing from the stress, which I really didn't realize I was carrying so much, right? And it's good to let it go, right?
Yes.
But I don't want to get to the point where I want my mind's still sharp. I want to keep a sharp mind. I'm still healthy, so it's not go sit on the couch, right? So, um, yeah, it's just time for something else.
Yes. Well, kudos to you because you
Thank
got
you.
4 grandchildren.
4
So they'll keep
grandchildren.
you busy with your 3 adult children and your wonderful, beautiful wife, Gigi. So
Yeah,
enjoy life.
yeah.
You deserve it.
I just spent the last 2 weeks in Florida with my grandchildren, and well, man, that was
So you're
they're two they're
decompressing.
2 years old. They're 2 years old, if that tells you, they're twins. 2 years old, if
Oh,
that tells you
goodness.
anything. So I'll leave it right there.
They're going to keep you busy, though.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm going to ask you the question, what initially drew you to manufacturing and what has kept you committed when you were in the industry? What has kept you committed to your career?
Drew me to manufacturing. I would say I come from an era where if you could get a job, you took a job. Where it's a little bit different now, right? Like when I talk to my son, I say, "Hey, they're hiring at XYZ," and he's like, "Well, I don't want to do that." That's unheard of from my generation. My generation, you took whatever was there, right? And if you wanted something different, you kept working there until you got something different. So I think I went into manufacturing, and I'm a problem solver by nature, and so I enjoyed the daily changes and the daily challenges associated with production. But it also um, gave me a chance to, let's say, every day I could evaluate the performance. Every day I could evaluate and see how we were doing and what we needed to do to get better. And that was my thing. I always um, try to get better. And that was my challenge. What can I do better tomorrow than what I did yesterday? And that was every day, right? So, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed trying new things. I enjoyed leading people, being with people, and bringing them along, right? It was just something that I enjoy doing, right?
Yes.
Um, what was the second part of that question?
What kept you committed
Mm,
throughout your career?
kept me committed. I gotta say, selfishly, it was a sense of pride, right? It was pride that kept me coming back. Number one, number two was also just that challenge. I still have this. Nobody's ever perfect, but you're always trying to be perfect, and I guess that's what kept me running. Right, every day I wake up the next morning ready to go. Right. Um, and I think that's part of why I'm in the retirement class now is that waking up the past few months was just going through the motions. You know what I mean? And not really. What can I do different? What can I do better? It was half-hearted versus you know me. I was a motivator. I was a driver, right? And that was kind of lacking, right? So thought it was time.
Yes, yes. When you lose that, you always have that passion, right? That burning passion, because that's
Mhm.
something that's within you.
Mm.
But like you said, when you're going in and you're just going through the motions and you're fighting your way through your days, then that's when you know.
What
Yeah.
here's the thing though is right that and I heard Derek talking about mentorship and succession planning and what have you, and that was always my motivation. And I would ask the question, okay, if you were in my shoes as the president, what would you do in this situation? And I would ask my team that, right, and kind of coach and guide them along the way. Um, it got to the point where I would come in days and my calendar was empty.
Mhm.
Maybe I did a too good of a job. I don't know. But my calendar would be empty, and that was so I'm thinking, okay, um, maybe that's where I start losing a little bit of, my team is firing. You know what I mean?
You know, Tony, I've said a few times. I don't know if this is right to say, but I've said if I've developed my team right, I become irrelevant.
Mm.
Yes, yes,
So
Wow.
good
yes,
job, Tony.
yes. That is absolute. And so that's why I say I was telling Rouse before is that I'm going to take off this summer. I know for sure. In September, I'll decide do I want to continue the retirement life or do I want to still go for that challenge, right? And so, I what I want to do right now is, um, if I can, Rouse, is to get to know Tony, right?
Yes.
Uh, I've always been the person where Tony, the president of U.S. Cargo, Tony, the senior manager at Christ, whatever the case may be, right?
Hmm.
That's how I was identified. And now, okay, who is Tony? And I don't know if I can answer that, to be quite honest with you,
Yes.
right? Um, I noticed that like the conversations with me and my wife Gigi are changing, and she's still talking to me like Tony, the president, and and I'm trying to get away from that,
Hmm.
right? So when I say she don't get me wrong, guys, she doesn't respect me like Tony the president. So that's not what I'm trying to say, but um, just she knows what kind of mood I'm going to be in when I get home and what
Yeah.
needs and what happened, and she's prepared for that. But I'm not that guy anymore, right? And so now it's it's a different kind of conversation, right? And she's got to adjust with me, and so we're talking better, we're talking more, yes.
Yes. Awesome. All right, Rick, my question to you is when you hear the phrase built to lead, what does leadership mean to you personally and professionally?
Yeah. I believe, that word built, I thought about that a little bit. And I think people that are just natural leaders, it's in them from day one. Um,
Mm.
Tony, I got to one up you. I had triplets, so I know the pain.
Yep.
Ross,
Wow.
I worked with Ross when they were in their 4, 5 years old, 6 years
Yeah.
old. Yeah.
Really.
So, but my daughter, it's almost like I knew when they were probably 3 or 4 days old. I knew who the boss was in that group. And not the boss, but the leader. I mean, she just, and still to this day, she's kind of, she keeps them together. They do things together. So there's a natural ingredient in there, and I believe in that. And when I work around people, I look for that. When I interview people, you know it in the first minute. And some people don't know it. There's a girl that works at my plant now, and she's not your stereotypical looking leader, because unfortunately, the stereotypical leader is, tall, well, all that stuff, the executive look, and she's just the opposite. But she has this incredible something about her that when she's involved in a team, she just lights it up and gets that group going. And I was like, man, she's got it. And Roz, you'll laugh about this, but I said, hey, have you thought about going down the HR path? Because people just gravitate to you. And I mean, they just really open up to her, and it's amazing. So I had this talk with her about 6 months ago, and I said, look, Katie, I said, you've got that it. I don't even know if you know it, but you've got it. So you let me know what you want to do a little different down the road, and I'll help you get there. And she didn't believe it, but about 2 weeks ago, I walked by her at work, and she goes, hey, I've been thinking about that. And now she wants to do it. And I was like, great. Now I'm going to work with you. But when you say built to lead, I think there's just something in there. And you just got to nurture that. Some people don't even know they have it, but when you see how people around them react to it, something's there, and you just, it's to be developed.
Yes.
Yeah. To me, if I could piggyback on that a little bit, that's the fun of it, right? When you get somebody who doesn't know that they have it, and then you start teaching them and showing them that they have it, and they're growing and they're getting excited about it. Man, that's the excitement. That's the fun part, to sit back and just watch that happen. And I think that's what developed our relationship, Roz. Is kind of took Roz to the next few levels, basically, right? And that was always fun.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And that goes back to the one thing that stayed common between all three of you when we were talking, that's having that servant leadership. Having the mentality that you see something in someone that they naturally or they don't really see within themselves, but you cultivated that gift and say, hey, I see something in you, and let me help you get to that.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things that really stick out to me is that, like Rick said, sometimes they don't see it, but you see it. But they demonstrate it in other aspects of their lives, but then when they come to work, they kind of put a blanket over it a little bit. Yeah. So I just really help people see that a lot of this stuff is just about transferable skills. If you can do something in one area of your life, look for the similarities and then transfer it over into this particular part of your life and continue the journey. People want to cut off their leaders in one aspect of their lives, and then when they walk through the doors at work, they want to cut it off. No, don't cut it off. Expand it, and basically use work. I mean, you want to be productive and all of that, but use work as a campground for practice. Continue it. And so that's the thing that I try to really help people see. Continue the process.
Yes. Absolutely. Which brings me to my next question, Derek. What are some of the most significant challenges facing today's workforce, and how can leaders help navigate them?
This is interesting. This is interesting. I got a guy on my team, and again, he and I talk every Friday. And one of the things that kind of stick out in my mind when I kind of look at things and observe things, and they usually come to us for resolution. One of the things that really sticks out as a major challenge is what I call the straight A student syndrome. And the straight A student syndrome is basically a person who excels academically. A lot of us been through the academic journey, and we know that we had to learn and memorize information, regurgitate it, and move on to the next thing, right? But some people get stuck there. And when they get stuck there, what that does for them, it freezes their ability to critically think. And so with all the challenges that's going on, not only domestically, but also abroad, you got to have the ability to critically think. And so that straight A student syndrome, I think, is one of the major things that I see. And so from a workforce challenge kind of situation, I think the organizations need to just basically allow people to be put in situations where they have to work themselves through it. We see a lot of people, they want to go to a manual, they want to go to an SOP, they want to go to something versus getting together with their team. And sometimes you just got to manufacture a solution. So I work for the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, so we're very heavy in policy and law, right? So we have to understand that we got to abide by the law and we got to abide by the policies. We get that. But there's also some room for people to take opportunities and say, hey, you know what? I'm not breaking the policy. I'm not breaking the law. Here's my answer to this problem. And so as long as you stay within the confines of the law and the policy, go for it. That's my encouragement to people. Go for it. Don't be hindered by, I didn't see it in the book.
Yes.
I don't see where the next chapter is going to lead me to the answer to this. Well, the book's not going to lead you to the answer. You got to make one. All right. And so that's one of the biggest challenges that I see as it relates to individuals and as it relates to organizations. And what happens to an organization when you have a whole litany of straight A students, you want to have a reduction in efficiency and productivity for sure. When you got to go find it in the book and you got to go ask people, and what I call a form of cheating, you got to go ask your neighbor for a lifeline. You know, you should have been making a decision while you're going up and down the halls trying to have people contribute to your answer. And so sometimes I just want to see people just take a chance. You know, I want you to take a chance. I want you to take a risk, and I want the risk to be calculated, but just take it. You know, and so sometimes when I go on vacation, as it relates to having coverage, because of, you guys have seen the news, all over the news, we had a lot of people leave the federal space. We had a reduction in force, and so sometimes we just don't have enough manpower. But when I leave to go on leave, I want to be on leave. And so I encourage my guys who cover for me, when you make a decision, it's your decision, stand by it. If it's not against the law, it's not against the policy. When I get back, you made a decision, I'm going to support you in your decision as long as it keeps us moving in the right direction. And so I give them that latitude as it relates to just make a decision. Because when I see people coming straight out of college, or just sometimes not even out of college, it's just a hangover, I think. I like to call it a hangover. You've been out of college 20 years and you still hung over and looking for an answer in the book, you know. So just make the decision, you know, and just kind of help the team, ultimately help the organization move forward. As leaders, I think one of the things that we're responsible for, though, is that we got to create the environment, and we got to give people the opportunity to do that. You got to give them the space to make a mistake. You know what I'm saying? And so if we're telling them we want them to be creative and we want them to make decisions, but then we come down on them like a ton of bricks when they make a mistake, well, you just negated what you told them that you wanted them to do. So, you know, just creating that atmosphere and creating that team, and hopefully the guys on the team, some of them want to be leaders, some of them don't. I got guys on the team that They don't want any part of leadership. They just want to come and do what they need to do, go home, be with their family, and do what they need to do. Right? And I'm not mad at that. I chose my journey, my journey to be a leader, and they chose their journey. I get it, you know. But those who do want to be leaders, you know, you really got to give them the opportunity and build that environment for them to flourish. And then one of the other things for me, guys, is that we just got to get back to the basics. And I'm talking about very basic, strengthening reading comprehension, quantitative and qualitative analysis, just math skills, just simple things that we got to strengthen. In the computer age, everybody wants to go and let me get my computer, let me get my phone, let me look and I can tell you what my phone tells me. No, I want you to tell me what you think and what you calculated and what you come up with. And so just some basic principles, I think we need to get back to.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for sharing that, Derek. And I totally agree with everything that you're saying, and that leadership, allowing the autonomy for people to make decisions and make mistakes and giving them grace. And that comes from trust. It comes from respect. It comes from transparency. It comes from all of that. So just allowing people to trust that you're going to trust their decision. So I like that.
If I could jump in on that, so
Yes.
mine was a little bit different. Though I trusted my people, we were a public company, and the decisions that we made affected the street. Okay, so I was available 24/7, right? And so when I was on vacation, my team, if there was something that could really affect the company or a decision had to be made, then we need to talk about it, right? And there were some times where I would get a call and I was like, oh, you didn't have to call me for that, right? You have those. But then there's times when, hey, yeah, you were right in calling me because this can impact this or that, you know. So yeah, it was just a little bit different.
Yes. Yes.
We all got our own stories, right?
Yes. And when you work for a company that operated like 24/7, 369, my phone does the same thing, but I had to get to the place where I had to cut it off, because if I don't, then I am not adding value to my team. If you are calling me all night, I am being the
Yeah.
solution that's not allowing you to make decisions. I'm solving your problems for you on things that you should be able to handle yourself. So you have to get to the place where you have to cut it off, unless it's, like you said, an emergency situation. Then you can reach out to me, because otherwise
Mhm.
I was operating in burnout because they were just wearing me out.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, Tony, my next question to you is the same one. What are some of the most significant challenges facing today's manufacturing workforce, and how can leaders help navigate them?
I think there's a couple of things when I look at today's workforce, right? Number one being patience. They're lacking the patience. We're in a world of instant gratification. We're in a world right now, right? And so I've had young people right out of college saying, "I can do your job." You know what I mean? Um, by all means, yeah, please step in. You know, there were days when I said I wanted to give it to them. Please take it. You know,
Yes.
um, but that's one problem, right? And the other problem is, um, well, there's three: the longevity, right? So, or commitment or tenure. People now they come and work for you, but they're already looking down the road, saying, "This is where I'm going to go next," right? You know, and so I'm saying you're going to do 2 years. You're planning on working here 2 years, and the answer is yeah. I mean, what are you talking about? Yeah. 2 years is long enough, or 3 years long enough. Then I'm going on. You know, it's like, you know, of course, my area, you worked and you retired, right? But yeah, I know those days are over, right? But that's some of the challenge you're seeing. So you got somebody who's getting ready to leave. How much time do you take to train them? You know what I mean? or who's planning on leaving, right? And so that's one. And I talked about the lack of patience. I talked about, how committed are they? And the last part is, and that I see a lot, is we're in an era now, and I think this just changed here in the last 5-10 years here, that um, it's not about, I'm not going to work to make somebody else rich. I want to do for me.
Mhm.
Right. And so I hear that a lot too. I'm not, I want to do for me, I'm not going to go make, somebody else rich when I could do it myself. Okay, you're going to start an aerospace company and do it yourself. Good luck with that, right? So there are barriers to entry that you have to consider. So those three things there. But let me back up some of the things that I did, right? So when I got that person that's impatient, right, and so I had to create a training plan to say, hey, this is what you need, to really be prepared and step into this situation, right? And I let them see it. I give it to them. Here's your training plan, right? And so that you can be developed and really give them an idea of saying, this is how much you still have to go, right? So that was one. The other is also trying to share with them, to get them, to reduce the turnover, if you will, is trying to help them understand what the future looks like. So why do you want to go here? And now you got to start all over, right? And some of the responses were, well, I'm learning something new. You can learn something new here. Sometimes you just got to have that real conversation with, if you're planning on leaving, man, do I want to waste the time and train you? And so sometimes you just have to have that difficult conversation with them, right? And so those are some of the things that I had to do. Some of the conversations, and then the last part, of course, is I'm not interested in making somebody else rich. I want to work for me, right? And I got that, but you can't work for you yet. So do this until you're ready to make that leap or make that jump, right? But in the meantime, what are you doing? And I think that really comes back to this generation, right? So I can only speak for myself, is that I tried to give my kids all the things that I didn't. Maybe that was a mistake, right? And so now um, they feel like that I'm supposed to take care, supposed to continue to take care of them while they want to do for themselves, and I'm like, no, I had to pay my way through college. I had to do, but that's not important, Yeah, I can remember my grandfather telling me he had to walk 10 miles to school, so it's kind of one of those things. So
Mhm. Yes. All right, Rick, I'm going to ask you the same question. Um, the most significant challenges facing today's manufacturing workforce, and how can leaders navigate them?
I agree with Tony on the retention subject. Gosh, it seems to have escalated since COVID. Like people's approach has changed. They're like, life is
yeah,
short. If I can make 50 cents more at the plant 2 miles away, I'm gone. Uh,
yep,
so that yeah, and it just seemed to really get exposed during and after COVID, and it we so yeah we've had a lot of discussions where I'm working now, because it's a new problem at this level. So we said, okay, how do we create that stickiness? I mean, we can get them in the door, but how do we create that stickiness? And I think for the first time in my career, we were able to connect the dots on creating like a developmental road path for every hourly employee that comes in the door. We built this system that, traditionally, it's been, it's like, well, if you have, like at Olin, we had 600 people in the casting plant. And you got to figure out, you're given this budget. You're like, okay, your budget's 3.2% and you spread that out how you want it, Well, it's the buddy system, and the right people aren't getting the right credit because we weren't using much data at all to make those decisions. So we spent about a year figuring out how to collect the data that showed both their performance, their hard skills and their soft skills. And then we created this ladder logic that said, hey, here's how you can climb the ladder. We're taking that out of our control. It's in your control now. We can guide you through that ladder. And we implemented that about 9 months ago. And I kid you not, I think we've only had 2 people. One took another job for more pay. The other 2 were resignations because they were retiring. But it almost immediately stopped the hemorrhaging of people just leaving because they could make 50 cents to $1 more down the street. And I think it was very interesting. What that was telling us back was they just wanted to know, do I have a path here? What is it? Are you going to help me get there? And I think we've provided that. Yeah, it was like, and I got to tell you guys, that's like something I've been trying to figure out for 20 years. And it's like cramming for finals. A few of us in a room and we just, Yeah. But it's been really neat because the people are very interested in where they're at. It's not an argument in that discussion. They're listening, they're interested. They're like, okay, you're using data. This isn't emotional. This is data. And yeah, that's my data, and they're like, okay, what do I need to do to get to that next level? And we show them. Yes. And the business was cool. I didn't know if they were going to bite off on this and say, hey, if they reach that level, if the data shows it, the raise happens. They're at the next level. There's no, we got to wait till next year. They bought into it. I was surprised, but they bought into it. We've been able to back it up. So yeah, we're on the front end of it, but that's, so far so good on the retention side. So yeah, it's been kind of neat.
Yes. That's interesting to hear the different paths that each of you have taken with the challenges. Like you said, Rick, since COVID, it's like you have to get creative. You have to, like Derek said, go back to the basics. No one wants to talk face to face anymore. We use Teams, we use AI, we use all this stuff, but getting back to the basics, being creative.
Yeah, it was just, taking the emotions, taking the people out of the equation, let the data speak for itself. And we created this structure that they could see, I want to get there, but I'm here and here's the steps to get there.
Yes.
So yeah, we have not had one person come back and say, pose that threat. Well, I'm gonna go down the street for 50 more cents. It has literally stopped.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I think that's critical that you said that whole retention piece, because I talk to the HR professionals in our space, and one of the things that they don't understand, it goes hand in glove. It's a combination for a reason: recruitment and retention. Like you said, people can recruit all day long, but they don't have a plan to retain the people once you get them in the door. And those people that are the cream of the crop type of people, they don't stick around long. If you don't have things in place that retains them, they don't stick around long. So when I realized that, I figured that, I got to do something just within my sphere of control to try to keep people fully engaged, and then give them opportunities to do things and give them an outlook, even though I look at it going back to what Tony said, do you want to train them? When you train them, sometimes you're going to lose them, but you got to be willing to take that gamble.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because you can't just hold people back just because you don't want to train them, or you don't want to train them to the full capacity of what they could be, because they may leave. Because I built this team, I built this empire. Well, you got to get beyond that. And if the person is built the league, they've built the league. Hopefully you can find somebody to replace that talent. But yeah, it's just retention. It made me sit up. I'm like, yeah, a lot of places don't do that well.
Yes, absolutely. All right, Derek, my next question to you is how do you build trust, accountability, and engagement among employees in the workforce?
Building trust. That's a difficult thing. That's a difficult thing. When I took over a team, when I went from one part of the organization to another part of the organization, and I inherited the team, it was a lot of distrust. And so I spent a lot of time in that realm of, okay, how can I get these guys to trust me, and how can I get them to feel comfortable with the vision that I have for the team? And so I spent a lot of time understanding and looking at team development. I think every thing starts with understanding that team development is critical. You just got to know where your people are, and taking a look at, and there's all kind of models out there, but the model that I look at is the Tuckman's model of team development, where you got the forming, storming, norming, performing deal. Just taking a look at that and understanding what needs to be done in each of those phases. And once you determine where your team is, understanding what you need to do to get them to the next phase. All right. So I spent a lot of time doing that. I think understanding and knowing that no matter where you are, I don't think it really matters about the organization or the entity. I think that certain teams go through predictable phases and challenges. And so understanding that and knowing that, hey, I may have a challenge on my hand to get these guys to a particular point. We may not be there yet, but if I can get them to understand where we are collectively and individually, and then, setting those particular training plans up and setting those exposure plans up, I think we can get there, and this is how we can get there. I think when you start to see people trust you more is when they figure out, how is he or she going to handle me individually? We work in team dynamics, but the team is still made up of individuals. And so people have this Whiffam syndrome. What's in it for me? We can talk team. I'm a team guy. I'm a sports guy. I played sports all my life. But still, you have some of that. What's in it for me if I do this? Mm-hmm. And so just trying to get them to understand that, here's some things that we can do where you can win. We can win as an organization. Everybody wins. It's hard to do that a lot, but if you can just kind of work on that, I think that really helps the team dynamics a lot. I think just building that trust, I think is just being consistent. Trust is built through consistency. Team members watch, again, how you respond to them, and they watch and see how you respond during difficult situations. As an old adage is, anybody can lead when things are going well, but what do you do when they're not? And then how do you act and how do you respond? And so just being cognizant of that and keeping that in mind, and understand that no matter what, people are always watching you. Your people are always watching you. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I think they do things on purpose just to see what you're going to do. But understanding that people are watching you and then looking and seeing how you're going to handle things kind of helps you, or helps me anyway, stay in perspective of that. I was fortunate. At one point I had two different teams and they wanted to give me a third team. I had one team that was a high performing team. And so my challenge, because they were high performers, was getting them to see and getting them to understand that it's level to high performance even. So you got high performers at the low level, high performers at mid level, and then you got high performers at the highest level. And so always pushing them to try to see what they can do to get better. And one of those things is I was in what they call a transformational coaching program. And one of the things that they taught us to do is when you're trying to get people to go to the next level, be honest and open with them. And so at the end of every fiscal year, I sit with the team and I ask them 3 questions. What went well, what didn't go well, and what can we do better? And I don't tell them what those answers are. I have them tell me what the answers are. And so just giving them some ownership in how they work and when they work goes a long way. And so just looking at that, and for me, I found that creates accountability, giving them ownership. When I give them, I have this thing that I started back, I think in 2020, 2021, somewhere around there, where I do and issue individual fiscal year projects and group projects. So I want to develop them on 2 platforms. You definitely want to develop them individually, but you also want them to develop as a team. As you know now, is you don't just go in the corner and do your work anymore and then come out and tell the teacher what you did in the corner. It's all kind of group dynamics that are in play. You got people that work together from different walks of life, different ethnic groups. I was in one company where I worked with somebody where I had to go take a Spanish class just to communicate effectively with them. And so you're communicating and working with people from different countries even. And so you want to develop that along with the individual stuff. So I give them group and individual projects every fiscal year. And I give them what I'm looking for as an outcome, but I leave it up to them how they get me there. And so that I found that builds a lot of trust, and then having them be accountable to that work. And so I found it interesting that when I give them ownership to it and it doesn't work, I don't hear this, oh man, I got to go. My kid's got a soccer game, or I got to go shopping. I don't hear all of that. It didn't work. Well, what happened? Well, this happened and that happened. We need to make a pivot and we got to make some adjustments. Okay, I'm staying late or I'm coming in this weekend, I'll do it. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Let's sit down and figure out what we got to do. And that's what happens when you give people ownership.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be quick to fix it because they were a part of the solution from the beginning.
Yes.
And so those are the things that I really focus in on and let get my ego and stuff out of the way. I've had a situation before where I didn't agree with my team. I thought, hey, here's a solution. This is a solution we need to deploy. And they got together and they voted against me. Mm. And because it wasn't critical, it wasn't high visibility, I'll let them go ahead and do it. Now, ultimately, they found out that the decision wasn't correct. And then they made a pivot and then they did something different. But I gave them the opportunity to see if they can make it work. You know, and so that also, Roz, going back to that question, getting people engaged. Just got to find creative ways to get people engaged in the process. Not just go to work, and then do more work. You actually involve them in the process. And actually, when I'm looking for solutions or resolve, I want it to be sustainable, not just a Band-Aid approach. And oftentimes you can't do that alone. So getting them involved that way helps out in that capacity.
Yes. Thank you, Derek, for sharing. Yeah. Thank you. Ownership, expectations, and then accountability. I think all of that is very important, especially with the part of owning it, and that when you give someone expectations and then the accountability part, you got to hold yourself accountable, because if you can't hold yourself accountable, how are you going to hold your team members accountable? So thank you for sharing that, Derek. All right, Tony, can you share a pivotal moment in your career that helped define the leader that you are today?
Hmm. Man, there's so many. Um, wow. You know, I look back to the days when we were at Chrysler, and I don't know if you knew this or not, but they took me up through the ranks very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it seemed like every year I was being promoted, you know, and I'll never forget the time when um, I think I'm working up in paint, and then they said, "Hey, we want you to be the nighttime ops." So I run the plant at night, and I'm thinking I haven't been outside of paint, you know what I mean? And but the confidence that they had in me that I could do it um, was pivotal, right? So they had more confidence in me than I had in myself, right? And and so I think that was huge in having that trust and that confidence in your team.
Yes.
Basically, you know, is but also what I did different though through that is I let them know that I was there. You know, if you run into a tough situation, then you can call me, right? Um, that was probably the most, you know him like I do, Tyree. Tyree was the guy who pumped into me. Um, 'Cause I remember him saying, "Hey, I want you to go run the paint job. You
Mm-hmm.
know, go run." And I'm thinking, go run it. You know. Anyway, he wanted me to be the top guy in the paint job, and I was kind of shocked. You know, I'm like, what? You know, and he said, "You're doing it anyway. You're doing it anyway." And I was like, I thought about that, and I was like, man, I guess you're right. You know, it's
Yeah.
just so it's got to go back to what Derek said, that trust. You know, that they put in me uh, made me also trust myself and say, you know, now I don't think there's anything that I can't do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't think there's a um, any industry that you put me in now. I'm gonna learn it. And I'm gonna figure it out, and there's nothing I can't do.
Yes.
And that was really because of what they did with me back then, right?
Yes.
Um, and I didn't. They taught me how to trust in myself. But I got to say this, and I don't know why I feel the need to say this, is that um, my daughter always said, she always says, I'm trying to think of the phrase that she says, surrender to the wind, she says, right? Surrender to the wind. And so my mantra has been surrender to God, basically, right? Um, and since June 1st, that has been because I always needed to be in charge, wanted to be in charge, and felt I was doing it right. And now I'm surrendering to this is not my will. You know, this
Mm-hmm.
is and this is really what the path that he set forth me, right? So um, I just felt the need to say that because that's where my head is right now, is surrendering.
Yes.
And I think if more did that, surrendered and fought and did that, the stress that I'm talking about that I felt I was under was unnecessary, right?
Mm.
So much stress, so many decisions, but everything always worked out. But you still live with that stress.
Yes.
And if you surrender, then you don't need to
Yes. I like that, Tony. Surrendering.
surrender.
Surrendering.
Yes.
Wow.
If I could go back, my 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 biggest regret of my career is all the stress that I carried
Mm-hmm.
and unnecessarily. I feel. I didn't need to do it, and I did it. I took it home with me. I carry 2 phones, and I didn't need to. And so my advice to anybody would be surrender.
Yes.
And you'll make better life decisions when you do.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. All right, Rick, can you share a pivotal moment in your career that helped define the leader that you are today?
I had time to think about that while Tony was answering, and 3 came to mind. I'll be quick. The first one was my first year out of college, and I'm supervising a crew in a finishing department, which really wasn't my wheelhouse. It was more metal melting and molding, So, but you got to start somewhere. And, a lot of pressure, just fast-paced automotive, all that good stuff. And I had a good crew. I felt like I had them working hard. And then one day, my lead, she comes up to me and she just puts her arm around me. She goes, "Boss," she goes, "this crew will run through a wall for you." She goes, "They like you. You got an energy, you're cool." But she said, "Just one thing, and they will really run through a wall for you." And I'm like, "What's that?" She goes, "Next time you need something done, ask them. Don't tell them."
Wow.
And I go, "Have I been doing it?" She goes, "Kinda." And I said, "That's it." She goes, "That's it." And I tried it, and like magic, it just worked. And I was like, wow, I didn't know I was doing that, So now I even coach people on this a lot. I'm like, if I can recognize other people doing it, I try and recognize myself. But it's like, we run into these problems, ask what they think. Kind of similar to what you guys were saying too about get that ownership too, and get their take on it. So that, I tell that story again and again and again because it was just so valuable. It did help me pivot. That crew ran through a wall, and I just kept using it, and it worked. My second one, I went into a plant, the casting plant, when they asked me to go down and run this casting plant, which I said, yeah, I can do that. That's my background. I haven't been in the plant yet. I've been working here for 10 years, but I haven't been in it. So I go down, and it was a train wreck of a situation because the leadership was the thickest buddy system I've ever seen in my life. And just, they didn't care about the place. They really didn't. It's like we had just knuckleheads running the place, and they sent me kind of down to change it. And when I went down, the safety record was atrocious. We're down there melting copper, and you got a horrible safety record. That's not a good combination. And the very first injury that occurred, we brought them in, and I knew I was up against some real headwinds with the culture because they were just like, oh, just another buddy here, running the place. And I remember we brought him in, and he was fully expecting just a write-up in hand it to him, tell him he's an idiot for doing it, and don't do it again. And he's got a write-up on his record. But I worked with we brought him in, and I had the supervisors in there, the manager, and we said, let's go through like an A3, Yeah. Let's understand the problem. Let's go through a fishbone. Let's do a 5Y. But the very last thing we're going to touch on is the man in all these situations. We're going to talk about the machine, the material, the environment, and the last thing we'll talk about is the man. So it kind of flipped the dynamic on its head because all they would do was write them up and hand it to them, and it was done, kind of lazy. And, the guy that came in with the incident was one of those macho casting guys, big guy, tough guy. And he came in, he was already all mad. He was prepared for his write-up, and we walked through this thing. And the outcome, I said, look, we won't sweep it under the rug. We'll do corrective action if there was a problem. Mm-hmm. But if you willfully went through it and we've vetted this all out and you take responsibility, then we'll do disciplinary action. And this big macho guy teared up in the meeting. And, I wasn't going to confront him, but afterwards I said, did you get worked up in that meeting? He's like, I couldn't hold it in. He goes, all we do is get written up down here. They never ask how it happened or why it happened. He goes, but you treated me like an adult, and just we as a group objectively solved the problem. And now I feel like we fixed the problem. And he goes, dude, I'm yours now.
Yes.
And I don't know if you remember, but everyone after that was the first time I tried that in my career. And it was out of necessity because of how toxic the culture was. I knew I was up against a wall, but we said, okay, that one worked. Let's do it again. And we just kept doing it. And it really began to get the crowd kind of rooting for us a little bit. They're like, okay, these guys can be trusted, so that was an interesting pivot, because I've copied that everywhere I've gone now, because I've been to 2 other plants, and not as bad as that one, but similar conditions, where a manager or supervisor, they feel, well, just an idiot, write them up. And I'm like, no, let's sit down and go through it, so that was a fun lesson to learn and pivot with and use it. I would say my last one, kind of taken away from some of your stuff, Tony, but and Roz, you'll remember this one. At that casting plant, so we melt, I don't know, 600, 800,000 pounds of copper a month. It is gargantuous. And when you have metal leak out of a furnace or spill out of a furnace, you've got a fire, and we'd have fires every day. I was so wrapped up in my work. Well, fast forward about a year, and HR has this contest for the kids and grandkids of the workers. They're going to do a calendar.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, kids, submit a drawing of what you think about Olin, the plant. And, I told my kids, hey, draw something, I'll turn it in. First place was $500, I think. And my daughter spends all night drawing, and the next day she gives me a picture, and it's a picture of our plant, this square looking building with flames coming out of every door and window. And I said, what's this? And she goes, that's all you talk about when you come home. I was like, oh no, really? And she's like, yeah, that's all you talk about. That was my moment where I was like, okay, that's got to stop. I got to leave that there. I'm becoming consumed with it, And that was literally the moment that I recognized it and said, okay, I got to focus on family when I'm at home. You only got them kids so long where they're at age and fun. Now they're grown up. I'm not cool anymore, So I was glad that it happened. But
Yes.
it was a realization that they're getting a good however many hours out of me at work. They really are. And my family deserves the same when I'm at home.
Yes.
Let me tell you.
It made me better at work.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's right.
No, I was going to say this, Roz. I think you left before Sergio Marchione took over at Chrysler. Okay. He was the CEO, right? An Italian guy from Fiat took over. And he was coming to our plant on a family day we had this one time. And I'm walking through with my son. And, he's got all these bodyguards and stuff around him. And he walks up and I introduction and everything. Well, he didn't want to talk to me. He went right to my son. And he said, hey, how are you? And good. And he said, hey, you want to work at Chrysler one day when you get old enough? And, I'm standing there all proud and everything. And my son says, no. And I'm like, what? I'm thinking, oh, my God. And he says, well, why not? He says, because my dad's never at home. He's always working. And I don't know if I want to live a life like that. And he was like 14 years old, he was a small kid, 13, 14 years old, and told the CEO that, right? I'm like,
what a brave answer.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, the CEO just kind of looked at him and said, huh, interesting. Looked at me and kind of just walked away. So I was like, I got to plug in right quick. So hold on for a second.
Okay. So yeah, thank you all for sharing that. I think, the surrendering, having listening ears, Rick, you listen to your team member. And you acted upon that, Derek, listening to your team members, allowing them that space where you allowed them to make a decision, even if it wasn't the right decision, you allowed them to make that decision. So I think all of that comes in play when we're talking about being pivot, making that pivot in our career, having the autonomy to be able to shift. Tony was talking about, going to a different department. Well, I had been in paint for 10 years. That's all I knew. I ran every department in the paint shop. And then the last 2 years I spent at the final line, at the very last place where the van was going out the door, making decisions for the entire plant. So yeah, all that is just fear. All of that stuff played, in your mind, but being able to shift and, like Tony said, surrender and just do it, jump. Yeah. All right. So my last question before we wrap up is, Derek, what advice would you give to a young person entering manufacturing who aspire to be in a leadership position?
I think just kind of understanding the dynamic of the environment that a lot of these people come from. Just understanding that and knowing that. And everybody was like, okay, I got to do this. You got people from all walks of life. Hey, I had to take care of my mom, my dad, my sisters, and all that kind of stuff, right? So you got people that always want to step up. Sometimes not step up in the right ways, but at least they want to step up. But one of the things that really dawned on me at the beginning of my journey was that a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people understand leadership, and everybody wants to get there, and they all equate leadership to money. But you got to have a sense of fellowship before you can be in leadership, right? But you don't need to be following a rumbling, stumbling, bumbling idiot either, though. So I'm not just saying just blindly follow anybody, but you need to make sure that you pair up with somebody that you respect, that you can trust, and that is possibly doing some things that you want to do in the future. And so once you establish that sense of fellowship, I think that contributes to how well you become a leader or not. And so understanding those two go hand in glove, I think would be something I would tell a younger person.
Thank you, Derek. All right, Tony, what advice would you give to a young person aspiring to be in a leadership position?
It's not too far off from what Derek said, but I think what's important and what's helped me is that from all the leaders that I've worked with or worked for or what have you, I try to find a good characteristic of them and try and copy it, right? Or I try to be that. For an example, I can remember, and Raj, you probably don't know this, but I used to have a problem with public speaking. I did not want to get in front of a crowd and on the microphone. And I remember being made to do that, in the plant. I'm standing over a plant, and I got 5,000 people standing out there, and I'm talking. And but I looked at the leadership of Obama, to be honest with you, when he was president, because that's the same time when I was doing this, right? And the way he was so articulate and in the way he talked, and I try to pick some of that up. So I would say the advice that I would give is ask the young, what is good leadership to you? What's it look like? And then who are the good leaders around here? What characteristics do you see? Now, yeah, Jim could be whatever, you don't like him, but there may be one thing that he does well. What is that? Right? Let's try and find that. So just pick bits and pieces up and see if you can see what fits and see what works with you, right? And that's what that's the advice I would get. Other than the dedication and the commitment necessary to go with being a good leader. I mean, it's and the other thing it's lonely, so be prepared, right? What did I say? Heavy is the head that wears the crown, or what have you. You know, there are days when you're all alone, right? And you have to be prepared for that. A good example is some people will gravitate to you because you're the leader, and some people will stay away because they respect you so much they don't, and so you got to be prepared for that. And how do you fix that, right? And how do you be more approachable, so that you don't create that type of atmosphere? But for a young leader, again, I just would say, look for role models and what you think is a good leader. Try and do that, right? And how would, and one thing I did in many occasions is I would reverse the role. If I was in this situation that they're in, how would I handle that, right? Or how would I want them to handle me? And so I would have to consider that as well. So that's what I would that's the main thing, really, is
Yes.
How do you want to be treated? How would you want to be treated if the roles were reversed? Then that's what you have to do, right? So,
Yes. All right, Rick, what advice would you give to someone aspiring to be in a leadership position?
Well, I don't mean to be redundant, but I literally wrote down treat people how you would want to be treated. That's I think my dad, put that into me at a young age, and like Derek, you Tony, you said it too. It's like when the rubber hits the road, you're the guy. Everybody that sees part, they're like, and it's got to stop somewhere, and sometimes you're where it stops. And I remember I was in a situation. It was actually a scary situation. It was a high stakes situation, and I was the guy. And one of my coworkers, I think he may have recognized I was like having that oh crap moment, and he just came over and kind of right behind me said, "Just make it look like you've been there before." And he was right, and I'll never forget that. I was able to, on a dime, just okay, and kept calm, and we got everybody focused on, okay, here's what we have, and here's what we can do, and let's put our heads together. Because those situations happen. If you're wanting to be a leader, there's sometimes you're going to be in a situation you've never been in before, but at least act like you've been there before, so that you exude that confidence to your group and they can think clearly and get through it.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you all for sharing your wisdom on tonight. I truly appreciate everything that you've shared on this very conversation of built to lead and our influence that we have professionally in the workplace. And it's all about building that foundation right. And even on a solid foundation, you will crack, you will bend, but you have to be able to have the mindset to shift. And as Tony talked about, having those pivotal moments and taking those leaps of faith. Mm-hmm. And at the end, I love the fact that you said surrendering, because there's so much wealth in surrendering. But it's something that's not, that's something that you just bump your head so many times. You're like, okay, I'm tired of doing this my way. So now I'm going to surrender, and I'm going to try something different. So Thank you again, Derek. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Rick, for your time. We started out rocky, but it's all about, like Derek said, leadership. We got through it tonight.
Adversity.
Adversity, that's right.
Thank you for having me, Rob. Thank you for
Yes.
having me, Rod. It's always
Nice
good
meeting
to,
you guys, and
always good to talk
great
to you.
listening to you.
Yes. So
Appreciate
if
you
you would
guys.
like to share anything
Yeah.
at this time, if someone wants to, get in contact with you, your LinkedIn, social media, how someone can reach out if they have any questions.
Yep.
I think the three of you, we're going to stay connected.
Yep.
Like I said, I do appreciate you. I think this connection is amazing. So,
Yeah.
Derek, we'll start with you. Share at this time.
Yeah, I didn't even bring any of that stuff with me. But yeah, again, I think just really taking into account that we still dealing with human beings, right? And so I think my parting shot would be, yeah, we got to get the results, and yeah, we got things we got to do, and yeah, there's tasks to be completed, but don't forget about the human factor and the human factor of people, because we never know what people are going through once they leave the four walls that we operate in most of our lives and most of the hours of our days. But just remember the human factor.
Yes. Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that, Derek. Tony, what about you?
I just want to say that people can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm still, but it's under Anthony C. Hill. Anthony is my real name, of course, as you know, Ross. And reach out. I have nothing but time at the present, and I don't mind sharing and talking. I mean, it's free. It's free. So I have a lot of that free stuff, right? So, yes, you can reach out to me anytime.
Thank you, Tony. And Rick?
Yeah, same here. Anybody, any questions, any comments, email me, call me. I probably speak for all of us that it's very gratifying when we're helping other people.
Yes.
Absolutely. That's true.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yep.
All right. Well,
Okay.
thank you again for being my guest on the Just Breathe podcast. If anyone inspires to be my guest, please reach out to me at whatisyourdetour@gmail.com. I would love to have you. Thank you to all of our listeners. Remember, weeping may endure for a night, but our joy is here. Joy will come in the morning. So thank you again, Derek, Tony, and Rick. I have enjoyed this space with you. We will continue to keep in touch. So we're going to let everyone go back to their evening. Good night, everyone, and thank you for joining us.
Good
Goodbye.
night.